Hey guys, it's Kat. Been a while. Sorry about that. School's been kind of really crazy. But hey, here I am where I'm trying my best to make sure I keep getting you guys stuff. So, this break actually kind of works out though because this video is going to be related to the last video I posted. So, in case you haven't seen that one, in that I came out as asexual to all of you guys who are following me. So taking a step back, looking at the big picture here, recently YouTube has been recommending to me a lot of coming out as asexual videos, and I've been watching most of them because, well, it's my community, and I want to support people and see what they're saying about their experiences about being ace. And something I've noticed is that my experience is actually a really unique one, and some of the facets of my journey to this point aren't very common and have really impacted the way I've experienced being asexual. So I thought it would be a good idea to talk about it and kind of get my story out there. And for anybody else who has had an experience like mine, or just an experience that isn't the typical narrative, you're not alone, and you are valid, and I support and love you. So, first and foremost, let's talk about what makes my story so different. I think the biggest factor is that I was homeschooled all my life. Most people I see in these videos talk about like the pressures that they experienced in school, of like all their friends suddenly becoming interested in sex and all that kind of stuff. But I never really had that because it was just me and my mom and my brother, and that was our school. And I grew up in a Christian household. So not wanting to have sex was a good thing because, no premarital sex. And like, I had no problem with that. So everything was hunky dory, and I didn't really think about it, really. I mean, I did have, social outlets. I did have friends. I was talking to people, but the main spaces where I did that weren't really spaces for romantic relationships. I was in Taekwondo. That was fun, but not, a dating scene. I was in co-op classes, but you're there for school and to see friends. And most of my friends were actually younger than me, so not by a lot, but enough where it wasn't even really registering that, hey, romance and sex that's a thing that you should probably be doing. And then the last real big outlet that I had was my youth group and doing stuff at church, which, again, good Christian girl, not interested in sex. I mean, there was some pressure because, of course, there was. We live in a very heteronormative and amatonormative society. So, I did have some guy friends, and I remember a couple of instances where some of the other people around us kind of were like, hey, are you guys dating? I was like, no. Why would you think that? No. Especially, well, I have this tendency to kind of, when I'm in a very open social situation where there's a lot of people I don't really know all that well, I tend to pick one or two people that I know very well and latch onto them and just kind of follow them around the whole time, because that way I will have at least one person that I know. And I would do that sometimes with these guy friends of mine, and I guess that people thought that meant we were dating. I don't know. I guess I can see why they would think that, but no. Okay, so let's talk about my first crush, which made things a little more complicated than they really should have been. So, this was, I was in middle school, I think, and there was this boy, and he was older than me, so I didn't really see him all that much, but whenever I saw him in the hallways, I would get kind of like hyper aware of like where he was in relation to me, and I would get like this fluttery feeling in my tummy of, oh, it's him. And I told my dad about it, kind of being like, this is weird. He was like, oh, you have a crush. I was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. Cool. So, like, I told all my friends about it, and they were like, oh, you have a crush? Ooh! And it was just kind of, yeah. But, looking back on it, I don't think that's really what it was. Because, I don't know, okay, so let me preface this by saying I am a romantic as far as I know, so I don't really know what romantic attraction feels like, so I can't say for sure, but I don't know, I've noticed that I do that on occasion with certain people, usually guys. My brain will kind of like hyperfixate and go, hey, look, that person, they're right there. That person is right there. Pay attention to them. I'm like, yes, brain, I'm aware. What do you want me to do about it? Look, they're right there. Look at them. Look at them. It's them. It's there. What? And I don't. And from what I understand of crushes, that's not really what they are, because I have no desire whatsoever to do anything. It's just very annoying, really. And I think that's what this was just that awareness instead of like I want him to be my boyfriend kind of thing. Yeah, it didn't, I don't know, feelings are weird and confusing. So, let's discuss everything in my love life that's happened since then. And let the friend zoning begin. It started when I went on a mission trip freshman year of high school. And there was this boy that I met there, because his youth group and my youth group were both working in the same spot. We were staying in the same place. And he was nice, so we started hanging out and talking, and we spent a lot of time together that week. And at the end of it, he left a note, or he had some of the other girls who were staying in the room where I was staying leave a note on my bed of like, hey, do you want to date me? And, it took me a good minute of thinking, of going, wait, people thought we were interested? Or people thought I was interested? What? Because for me, we were just hanging out, being friends, being buddies. That was probably my easiest friend zone, though, because he lived in New Jersey. I do not live anywhere near New Jersey. It would not have worked at all, ever. So that was the start of it. But it made me feel good to be like, hey, he wants to date me. That's sweet. That's great. But I'm not really interested, so I said no. And then we got to the ones that were a little bit harder, because I started playing D&D with my friends. Gonna make a video about that eventually. And every single person in our group, aside from my brother, who was our DM, because that would be gross, either said that they liked me or asked me out on a date. Oh boy. And when I say that to people who experience romantic attraction, they're always like, "Oh, you're so lucky." And I find myself struggling to articulate how bad that made me feel. Like, the first one or two were kind of like, "Okay, no, thank you. I'm set, thanks." But the rest of them, it's just it hurt, because once they said something, the friendship could never be the same again, and it felt like they were breaking it almost. And I was just like, "No, please don't. I don't want this to change, because you're my friend." And it really hurt and felt really bad. And I don't know if people who experience romantic attraction can really understand what that felt like, because it wasn't great. And it was when I started playing D&D that I got my first signal that I looked back on later and was like, yeah, I should have known that I'm ace. And it was when I made my first character, or one of my first two characters, ace and asexual aromantic. And the way I defined that was, she just doesn't think about it. It's not a factor for her. And I thought about that and was like, gosh, that would be nice. Just gonna let that sink in for a second. How did I not know? I was so oblivious. Anyway, I don't remember exactly when I learned about the term asexual, but it was sometime before that, and I didn't really apply it to myself right away. But because my go-to when I was friend zoning all these people was, I'm just not ready for a relationship, because I wasn't attracted to any of them. So I figured, when I'm ready, it'll click and we'll go from there. I wasn't really feeling any immediate urge to, get it to click. I was willing to wait for that to happen, but that's just what I thought. And yeah. So I think junior year of high school is when I first started thinking, hey, this might be a thing that I am. And then I dismissed it as like, I'll just sit on that for a while. And then senior year, I really started digging into, okay, so let's do some research on this. Let's figure out if this is what I am. And I said, yeah, I think this is me. So I came out to my parents the summer after my senior year, between high school and college. And then when I got to college, that's really when I started, identifying as asexual aromantic. And that's been really, really nice, because I've met all these people who support me and are very accepting of my identity, and it's really good. So yeah, I'd say I've had a very easy slide into my identity. My story has not really had one of those you know, gut-wrenching, world-stopping realizations. It's just kind of like a slide into, oh, okay, I guess this is me, and I'm okay with that. So, I guess I'll end with advice for people who are questioning or kind of looking into this sort of stuff. You are what you say you are. One of the most common things I hear is, well, what if you meet someone later? And, you know, that's valid-ish, but here's the thing. If I decide right now that I'm going to be a teacher, and I go to school, get my degree, become a teacher, and everything's great, and then 10-ish years down the line, I go to seminary, become a pastor, I was still a teacher. And that label was important to me while I had it, and it's still going to impact who I am later, and it was an integral step in my journey. And I think, and no one would say, well, you might be something later, so I shouldn't call you a teacher now. And nobody is going to say that becoming a pastor later invalidated the fact that I was a teacher. And I think it's the same thing with sexuality. The label that you choose for yourself right now describes who you are right now. Not caring about what could come later, it's right now. And now, the label asexual and aromantic means something to me. It describes who I am. And it lets me explain my experiences to people. And just because someone might come along later and change how I identify, that doesn't invalidate the fact that right now, this is me. And it shouldn't invalidate the fact that right now, this is you. So pick a label, try it on. It's like going to the store and trying on clothes. You put one on, see if it fits. And if it does, great, use it. And if it doesn't, you can try a new one. And no one who matters will judge you for it. So, yeah, I hope you all have a great day. And hopefully it won't be such a long gap between videos next time. Bye, guys.